Good morning, everybody. Jamie Barber here from LinkedIn Sales Solutions. Thank you for waiting for 2 minutes while we started the webinar. Apologies for the delayed start. People are joining now, so we will get going shortly. We'll give it about 30 seconds while people are joining into the Zoom. Thank you so much for your patience. Okay, so let's get started. We'd love to introduce my colleague here today, Lauren Cohen, as well. Lauren, if you'd like to say hello.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Cohen. I am a solutions consultant here at LinkedIn, and I'm actually based out of our London office.
And myself, Jamie Barber, based out of the Dublin office. And thankfully, we are actually sitting in the same room today, which is probably the first time we've done that in a long time. We can see a chat already, actually. Will this session be recorded? From Carolyn. Carolyn, absolutely. So you'll be able to access this afterwards on demand, and will actually be on YouTube as well if you'd ever like to play it back or share with a colleague. So first things first, just a few housekeeping rules. Feel free at any point to pop a chat in. I can see some people have already put in some chats. No problems that someone was late. We were late too, apologies. You can also go into the Q&A. A chat or a Q&A, very similar, but we will answer those questions as we go. So what we will be covering today is really an overview and demonstration of LinkedIn Sales Insights. And we're actually going to walk you through LinkedIn Sales Insights and then some of the endpoints of the fantastic data that we can move LSI data to, like Sales Navigator, Campaign Manager, and CRM as well. So let's give you a couple of slides just to set the scene, and in maybe 5 minutes time, we're going to jump into the demonstration. So to kick it off, before we actually get into showing the tool, where do we get our data from? Where does LinkedIn get our data from? And thankfully, a lot of you in the call will be familiar with your profile. And that's exactly where we get all of this data from. We have 810 million people that all have a profile. They tell us lots of great information about themselves. And then they all work for companies. So you will say, I work for LinkedIn or whoever it might be. And we can be really confident that all of that data is up to date. It's kept live every single day. And any changes that happen are updated very quickly. Now, we treat it in a really trustworthy way as well, because our members are our most important asset in LinkedIn. So GDPR, Canadian laws, the laws in California are all bring our minimum bar up. So we make sure that we use this data in a really effective way. But one of the things we heard from clients over many years was, it'd be great if we'd access that data to help us in the corporate and enterprise world actually plan better, understand our go-to-market, understand our total addressable market. And that's really where LSI is coming in. So what we have in our data and insights is people-powered data. Exactly as I mentioned, all of the members that are giving us this view of what they're doing, what their roles are, and the companies they work for. But we can overlay that then with relationship data and engagement data. So if you think of Sales Navigator, how we're connecting to buyers, Campaign Manager, how we're actually engaging with prospects. And we can bring all of that together and start to surface it for our clients with some of the tools. And the last thing here is that we want to make sure that these data flows go to all of the places that you're using in your company. So that might be CRM, it might be other marketing tools, it might be other sales tools. But we want to make sure that this rich first-party data actually permeates into other parts of your business so you can bring that with you as well. Now, what we'll be covering today is a little bit more on sales insights. And sales insights fits into a bigger picture. So you can see here on this slide that we have sales insights on the left. A lot of you will be familiar with Sales Navigator. And then CRM is kind of par for the course, and every company will be using CRMs today. But it's how they connect together and how they share this real-time data from LinkedIn. So on the left here, you'll see that Sales Insights helps you plan, helps you inform your strategy, and then all of that data that you do in the planning and the strategy can be pushed into CRM. CRM is that single kind of source of truth for most companies. And we want that information to be up to date. So all of the CRM users can actually have that rich data in front of them at any point in time. And then again, a lot of you will be familiar with Sales Navigator, where we can actually build these relationships with prospects and buyers, stay updated on what's going on in their world, and be more empowered to know when and how to reach out with the right message. So this is how we bring these things together. And Sales Insights is probably the first part of this, where you would start doing your planning. And that's what we're going to go through in the demo today. So on this slide, you can see Sales Insights. And we're actually going to walk you through how we kind of build out a nice little report like this. But you'll see here on the left, you can take sources from LinkedIn itself. You can look at the entire data set. You can connect to your CRM and you can look at LinkedIn data against the companies in your CRM. Or you can simply just upload a list, a CSV file. It might be of accounts or it might be from another data provider, but you can then match all of the LinkedIn information to it. You'll be able to target specific departments, people, industries, and then you'll have a report that helps you understand sizing of opportunity. You'll be able to summarize this. You'll be able to look at locations, industries, segments, personas. Also view how our Sales Navigator users are engaging with these companies. So we understand where we're already doing a great job and where maybe we need to in future. And then the last piece in the top right of this little screen, export. So you'll be able to send this information to CSV. You'll be able to manipulate it, use it to plan. You'll be able to send it to the CRM and do it automated, or you can send it to Sales Navigator or Campaign Manager. So that's our introduction. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to Lauren. And Lauren is going to give us a demonstration of LSI. So we'll get rid of these slides here and we'll jump into Sales Insights. We'll just check the chat actually, Lauren, before I hand over to you. We do have a question about CRM integration. So Mislav asked, does Pipedrive CRM integrate with LSI? It depends what way you want to look at it, Mislav. So we have a direct connectivity with Salesforce and with Microsoft Dynamics. So there's like an app in the App Exchange or the App Source store that you can download and connect directly. But actually the beauty of Sales Insights is that if you have something like Pipedrive or any other CRM, HubSpot, SAP, you can just download a report into a CSV and import that into LSI. And that will give us that kind of, not an integration per se, but you'll be able to view all of your CRM accounts from Pipedrive in Sales Insights. So I'll hand over to Lauren, and Lauren's going to walk us through Sales Insights.
Yep, absolutely. Hi, everyone. So welcome to LinkedIn Sales Insights. As Jamie mentioned before, the kind of data that acts as the foundation for LinkedIn Sales Insights does come directly from LinkedIn.com. Now, in order to start accessing that data and reporting, the very first thing that we're going to do is go over to this Create Report button. So for the purposes of today, I'm just going to name this our We're just going to name this our webinar report, and we're going to click on create. Now, once we've done that, you can see along the left-hand side here that there are a number of filters that we can use. The very first thing that I wanted to call out is the source of our data today. So right now, what we're looking at is all of the companies that are on LinkedIn. Now, if I did want to constrain this set of data, I have the option to do that. Jamie's mentioned several times that we integrate directly with certain CRMs, those being Microsoft Dynamics and Salesforce, or that you can upload a CSV file, again, to look at a specific set of data. Now, let's go ahead and say that I wanted to either include or I could potentially exclude those sets of data. What that would look like is clicking on this change button here. Sorry, just one second. Now, again, let's say I wanted to exclude my Salesforce environment so that I was prospecting specifically for net new logos. So now you can see that the source of our data has changed. I'm looking at all of the companies that are on LinkedIn, except for those that are in my Salesforce environment. You can also see that there's some additional filters that have popped up here. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start by looking at the company headquarter location. Because we're in EMEA today, what I want to do is look at companies that are headquartered in EMEA. And let's say I only want to look at organizations that are in a specific industry. Again, for the purposes of today, I'll focus on financial services. And you can see here that our industry taxonomy is actually 3 layers deep. Over the course of the last few months, we've migrated to a new industry taxonomy, and this one is specifically aligned to NAICS codes. So we're really focused on kind of, again, being aligned with industry standard here. I'm going to go ahead and select all of financial services and click apply. Now, what you can see is that the list is updating in real time. We've got just over 250,000 companies that are kind of matching the description for what we're looking for here. This list for me is still a little bit too big. What I actually want to focus on is companies that are experiencing 20% growth or more. So again, I'll go ahead and apply that filter. And again, you can see that the list is updating in real time. Now, one other thing to call out here, we talk about company size and company size growth. Those are tied directly to employee headcount. So these are not focused on revenue. I will say that as of July of 2022, we do expect revenue to be in the tool. But again, for the purposes of today, what we're focused on is employee headcount. So I did want to walk through a couple of things with you quickly here. The very first thing that I wanted to touch on is the data that we're showing you within the tool. First things first, as you can see here, you've got kind of a thumbnail view of the company. We also share the company hierarchy information, so you can start to understand the parent-child relationship between AXA and its subsidiaries. Now, there are essentially 2 buckets of information that we're providing you with here in the tool. The first is around opportunity size, and the second is around connectivity. I actually like to think of opportunity size as more or less opportunity health. So this first column on the left is focused on the global employee headcount for this organization. Now, what we can see is that there are almost 95,000 employees and that this company, AXA, has experienced 33% growth over the course of the last 12 months. We're going to come back to this employees column in just a minute. But the other metric that I wanted to touch base on here is jobs posted. So what's so interesting about jobs posted is that it's one of the only future facing metrics that we have today. And particularly over the course of the last few years, what we've realized is that revenue doesn't always give you insight into a company's health today. So again, jobs posted is a really great way to understand whether or not a company is investing in itself and in its future growth. So the next thing that I wanted to touch on here is actually around connectivity. What this is looking at is essentially the relationship strength that exists between your Sales Navigator users and the company on the left-hand side. So what you can see here is really kind of the aggregate number of unique connections between your sales team and the company on the left. Now, I wanted to pause here. I do see that we've had a couple of questions pop up, and then we'll come back to how you can make that connectivity information even more granular. So it looks like we have a question about whether or not Insights is a different product to Sales Navigator and whether or not the cost would be additional. So the answer is yes, these are 2 separate solutions. There are different costs associated with the 2 different tools. And then the second question that we got was, can we see employee headcount per market? And the answer to that is yes, we can. It's just really a question of how you choose to isolate those geographies. And we will kind of demonstrate how you can isolate specific job titles, functions, or seniorities within the tool as well to get even more granular than we are right now. So I'm going to go ahead and expand the information that's in the tool even more at this point. I did want to show you how we can get deeper on the connectivity metric. So what I've done here is I've expanded the view. Now, what you can see is not only the connectivity information, so the number of connections that you have, but you can actually see the activity that the sales team has engaged in here. So we can see the number of employees that they've researched. So that means viewing a profile or saving as a lead in Sales Navigator. We can see the number of employees that they've contacted. And we can see the number of employees who have actually accepted those forms of outreach. So you start to get really, really clear insight into exactly how the sales engine is operating and whether or not they're operating with efficiency here. Okay. The next thing that we're going to do here is actually isolate specific personas. As you can see over here on the left-hand side, we've got this persona section. Now I've got the ability to add on. So what I'm going to do is select a couple of different personas for us to look at here. Now, these are personas that we've actually pre-built. We can demonstrate in just a couple of minutes how you might build a new one. Great. So what you can see here is that the entire table has updated and all of the information is now specific to these personas. And I should have been clear, the personas include marketing and sales folks. So what you can see, again, the yellow one is kind of corresponding to marketing. This greenish gray one is corresponding to sales. And it's actually isolating the number of people who match those job titles. Again, you can see the growth of that group of people over the course of the last 12 months. Similarly, you can see the number of salespeople here and how many, again, how much growth that team has experienced over the course of the last 12 months. Jobs posted, connectivity, employees researched, contacted, and engaged. All of that information is now specific to these two personas as well. So again, as we start to think about whether or not you're connected to the right companies, we can get even more granular and start to understand, are we connected to the right teams or people within those companies? Is our sales team, again, really connected to and prospecting within the right groups of people? Again, I'm going to pause here because it looks like we've got a couple more questions coming in. So the next one was, does the connectivity of the employees contacted include connect requests even if they have not been accepted? So the answer to that is no. We're only counting engagement as people who have actually actively accepted those connection requests or actively accepted in-mails. Great. The next thing that I wanted to do was actually touch on some insights that are kind of included in the tool here. So the first thing that I wanted to showcase was location. With EMEA as our headquarters, you can see that there's quite a variety of locations that we're connecting to here. What the tool will do is not only provide this heat map for you, but it will also break down exactly kind of the number of companies that are in each of these countries or regions. And we can get quite a bit more granular to actually see how many companies are within each city. So as you start to think about aligning your sales resources or marketing resources for that matter, you do have quite a clear picture of kind of exactly how you should be mapping things. Now, on the off chance that you don't map based on company headquarter location and instead are more focused on where these decision makers are or where kind of the people that matter are for you, you can flip this to a persona map. So despite the fact that these companies are headquartered in EMEA, what we can see is that the personas are actually all over the globe. So the next thing I wanted to do here was walk through, again, just a couple more insights. We've got top picks, which is really focused on kind of the top companies that have the most people that match your personas and have the most connectivity with your sales team. So in my mind, this is kind of like low-hanging fruit or ripe opportunities to be pursuing. Big bets is focused on the top companies that have the most employees that match your persona, but have no connectivity with your sales team. Again, in my mind, almost like a missed opportunity. And then untapped growth is actually looking at the fastest growing companies that are on the platform, again, with no interaction between your sales team and the selected personas. So the next thing that we were going to do here was actually show you how you can extract this information and how it manifests in other tools. So that would be Sales Navigator, that would be Salesforce, or Campaign Manager. And for that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Jamie.
Excellent, Lauren, thank you. So if we have a report here, everyone, what we can do, and actually before I do that, I can just see there is a Q&A in here. So we have, their first question is, what is the time period that is factored into those company engagement statistics? Can this customized? So that's a fantastic question, Andrew. At the moment, it is over the last 12 months. So year on year, if you will. And we don't have a plan to customize that yet, but that may very well be something that we will do in the future. But for now, it's just over the last 12 months. We have another great question here from Sad. What's the key difference between LinkedIn Sales Insights and Sales Navigator? Is there an option to purchase a combo of these together? So Sad, the big difference is Sales Insights. If we want to take an analogy, we can think that Sales Insights is more macro, account-based, persona-based. So if we want to do our planning, we will start there. And an analogy would be we're flying at cruising altitude and we're looking down at all of the companies, all of the personas, etc., the regions, industries, locations they're in, so that we can understand our total addressable market and then understand our priority companies. And then once we understand which of those companies are priority, then we'll pass over to Sales Navigator so the sales teams can engage with the individuals as they typically do today. So they are separated, but absolutely around the purchasing, you can buy a purchase of a combo of these together if you so wish as well. So I'll mark these as answered. And then we do one more chat before we move on. Can you customize personas, or are they just default sales and marketing? Super question, actually. Let's look at that before we go over into exporting. So I'll go into personas here. And maybe we'll just build a new one for the sake of showing everyone.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
And we'll do maybe C-level. It's just an easy one. And what we can do here is we could focus on function, which is pretty self-explanatory, but that's probably too high level. We could focus on seniority here, which you'll see there's some of the seniorities, but I can actually start picking job titles. And the really nice thing about this is I can put in acronyms like CEO, and I can find Chief Executive Officer. I can select this and I can start adding these, but you'll see that 9 selections have been added. And the reason for that is on the right-hand side, there may be variants of these personas. So it'll add in deputy, group chief executive, interim principal, etc. Now I'm just picking out kind of some of those C-level ones, but you can see here how I can find these. But it might be I put in things like managing director. And what we're doing here is we're searching across the 800 million titles that are on LinkedIn, and we're standardizing them. So we're making it really easy for you to find these. And I can put in these keywords and I'll see all the different ones that might match here. And this is simply how I build out my persona. And then I can save it. And at the bottom here, you'll see it will show me the sizing of that persona in total across LinkedIn. And then the last thing is, if I've missed 1 or 2 things, it will suggest things based on my selections below. So absolutely, you can make the persona as customized as you wish. So let's take this data somewhere else then. I can click on export up here in the top right, and you'll see I have 3 options. So we'll start from the bottom, send to Sales Navigator. And what I'll do is I will say, send this to a user in Sales Navigator called Jamie Barber. And that list will wing its way across to Jamie's Sales Navigator. But let's, before we go there, just talk about the other 2. So CRM, if these companies exist in my CRM, what I can do is actually push all of the LinkedIn data across to those. If they do not, or I want to manipulate them somewhere else, I can export them to CSV. So you have options. But let's jump over and walk through those. I'll start in Sales Navigator. So in my Sales Navigator, I can come up here to my account lists. And in my account list, you'll see webinar top picks. And I can click into this list. And what will happen then, it will show me all of these companies that I've just sent from Sales Navigator. And for me as a seller, it's really important that I understand 2 things have already happened with this list. Someone has worked on these companies in Sales Insights, and they've defined them as the top picks, and they've understood that the personas that I want to sell to exist. So for me in Sales Navigator, I can be confident that I can work on this list, and I can be confident that the people exist that I'm trying to find. But I can do it at scale as well. I do not need to work through each company and do my research. So what I can do is I can go to my saved searches, and we might look at maybe this IT buyer persona that I've previously saved. And I can fire up that search, and you'll see here that it will add in all of those keywords that I've previously populated across here, lots of different keywords. And actually today, what I really care about is I want to sell to maybe the UK or understand people in the UK and Ireland. So the 760,000 people that return in this will be narrowed down. And when they're narrowed down, we'll get a little result up here. But I'm focused on those 500 companies. So how do I actually focus on these types of people in those companies? Well, it's very simple. I can go in here and I can click on my lists, and I can bring up that list. So what's happening now is I'm searching for these types of keywords within the same geographies I care about, but only in the companies that are in that list. So for me as a Sales Navigator user, I can be really efficient. I do not have to do much research. I just use all of my different selections here and focus on that list to really land on some high quality focused leads. And then I can go and work on that. And it might be as simple as I save some of these to a list. And I might say, you know what, I want to share this with Lauren Cohen. So I'm going to say Lauren Cohen's leads for March. And I can save this list. And for a second, you might say, but Jamie, that's your list. But with Sales Navigator, thankfully, we can collaborate really effectively. So I have my list here, and I will simply go up here and say, share this with Lauren. And then what Lauren can do is she can just get to work on here, and we can collaborate, we can work through it, whatever it might be, and then we can work together. So the Sales Navigator integration with LSI is really clean because we can get those lists over to salespeople. And as you can see here, they can get to the people very quickly. And then they just get into doing typical things like InMail, et cetera, et cetera. But you'll actually notice that some of these people are not in my CRM. So maybe what I'd like to do is I'd like to find a person and I can kind of engage with them, send them a message, send an InMail. And then at that point that matters, I will add them to the CRM. That's a good time to actually move over to our CRM then, because when we're in the CRM, I can actually start to look at specific companies. So I'm going to look at University of Arizona here. And there's no reason or rhyme behind this other than I already have some of the information populated in here in University of Arizona. A lot of you will be familiar with Sales Navigator, so you'll know that the widget will show company information, but that's not what today is about. Today is about LinkedIn Sales Insights. So all of my standard fields here are populated by me, by my colleagues, by maybe data that we've brought into the system on day one. But you can see down here in the bottom right, we have Sales Insights automatically pushing information into the accounts. And all of this information is first-party information. So University of Arizona create their company profile, and then we can be confident that that information is up-to-date and accurate. We can pull that directly into CRM. We can also look at dynamic data. So global employee count, employee growth, and then you'll see here at the bottom, I have personas. Now in this account, I've decided that I don't want to push personas, but what I could do is I can actually look at a report of all of the LinkedIn Sales Insights, information that's being pushed into my CRM. And you can see here, I have a list of companies, and for some of them, I do have personas, and I have multiple personas, and it will give me those employee counts, growth rates, and all of the other different fields that are related to those companies. And the nice thing about this is that these are in a separate data table within your CRM. So we're not overriding what you already have. We're just adding data. And then you can use these fields and bring them into other reports. You can use them to plan. You can use them to do account propensity, etc. Our last thing then, we talked about Sales Nav. So that's really a sales tool. We've talked about CRM. The last thing we know, we have some marketing people on this call as well. So wouldn't it be nice if I'm using my campaign manager today? And for any of you that have used this, you might be familiar that you upload lists of accounts. if you're doing things like maybe account-based marketing. And the challenge here when you upload a list is the match rate is the first thing. So you'll upload your list and it'll take a little while to process, and then you'll get a match confidence score. But because we are sending our list from LSI, we're sending it from a place that has all of the LinkedIn unique IDs. So if you're targeting AXA, Allianz, NatWest, these unique IDs are passed directly to your list here. So we are absolutely laser focused on those correct accounts. And the second thing is, if you're familiar with Campaign Manager, the audience count will take maybe a day or two to process. But we can come into Campaign Manager already knowing what our audience count is, because we have understood our personas and the number of employees that work in these companies. So we can be really confident that our match rate is going to be high in the companies. We'll know our audience before we get there. And then from a marketer's perspective, you can be more efficient in how you're doing your campaign management. Now, if we think about this at a broad perspective, LSI is helping marketing. LSI is helping salespeople and marketing people plan on one page here, literally. And then also we're helping your Sales Navigator users focus on the companies that matter as well. And this is really the benefits of Sales Insights. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just jump back here to Sales Insights. This is kind of the end of the webinar now, and we'll just answer some questions if any have come in. So we have a couple on the Q&A, which I'll go to first, and then I'll come back to the chat. So the Q&A ones are actually answered. That's great. So we can go straight back to the chat. So we have a question from Mislav here. What is the main benefit of having LSI and not just Sales Nav regarding lead generation? So really, really clear and quick answer here, Mislav. The idea here is that if you're using just Sales Navigator today, you can build lists. You can focus on companies, you can focus on people. But what we're doing in Sales Insights is taking that macro view of how big are the opportunities. And you might say opportunities are based on size of company, or they might be based on personas, or it might actually be that they're based on location of where those people exist. And giving you all of these things in LSI is a way to better plan. And it takes away that, that hypothesis, and it starts to kind of prove it for you with data as well. So you can be more informed, so you can plan better. And then you can execute very effectively in Sales Navigator, Campaign Manager, etc., or any channel. You could be doing some of this off LinkedIn. The focus here, though, is that your plan is very laser targeted because you've used LSI.
Yeah, absolutely. There is one other thing that I wanted to add to that. I think, at least from my perspective, LSI is really about efficiency and effectiveness. And Jamie touched on that, but the idea is that we want the sales team to focus on the opportunities that matter rather than boiling the ocean. And certainly the search capability within Sales Nav is fantastic. That being said, it does require quite a time investment to ensure not only that you're focused on the right companies, but that you're focused on the right people within those companies. I think Jamie did a really nice job of demonstrating how quickly you can go from creating that list to finding the right people within the companies that are on that list. So really about efficiency and effectiveness there.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I'll add there is that think about the two audiences that we've talked about today. Sales Navigator users, you'd be very familiar with. This is basically all of the salespeople that are in our organization. What we're seeing with Sales Insights is that it will be a smaller core group of maybe sales leadership, sales managers, business development managers, marketing leaders, and maybe people that are in kind of research or analytics. And they will be a smaller team doing the planning here, and then get these lists to the individual salespeople, get these lists to marketing, etc. And they are separated. And the last question I could see here is from Lorraine: how do we access Sales Insights? Is it from Sales Navigator? It's actually separate, Lorraine. And I think that the big call to action for everyone on the call today, if you would like to see Sales Insights in more context around your business, your go-to-market, you can absolutely reach out. Now, there'll be 3 different groups that we have on this call today. There may be some people in companies that already have a Sales Navigator relationship with us. You can reach out to your relationship manager. There will be some people here that are already working on an existing new relationship with maybe an account executive in our team. or there may be people that they're not sure how to get in contact with us. The absolute easiest way to contact us is to go to business, and I probably should have had this open, business.linkedin.com, and then you can navigate to the sales solutions section, and you can click up here, contact sales, and you'll do a form fill, and one of our representatives will reach out to you directly. And then we can go through and we can talk about how LSI or Sales Navigator might be able to assist you. So I think, Lauren, it looks like we've answered all the questions. I think we're at just about at our 39 minutes. We started 2 minutes late.
Yeah.
So thankfully we've caught up on that. Apologies for starting late, folks. This webinar will be available on demand. And you're also more than welcome to search for myself and Lauren on YouTube. We have all of these webinars uploaded as well after the fact. If you'd like to share them with any of your colleagues, you're very welcome. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you for your time and your engagement. And we'd love to hear from you all very soon again. Thanks, and bye-bye.